Hey, you guys, Pastor Josh here, and I just want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for making the decision to lead a group this season. I know we've been through a lot. I know this is a big ask, and you have been amazing in accepting this challenge to lead growth groups. We need it. We need you to lead these groups. And the reason for this, and we talked about it a little bit at our leadership training, is that we have the why. There's this why. There's this reason behind everything that we do. And the why behind everything that we do is because people need the hope of Jesus. People walk around carrying the weight of the absurdity of their own existence, even if they don't want to admit it. But if we look back at our past life before we had Christ, we'll realize that the thing that we have, people desperately need. And so the why behind everything that we do as a church, and we've talked about this before, is that people are hopeless. When Jesus saw the crowd, he saw them like sheep without a shepherd. He saw them helpless. And so when we see people, even in our church, with the eyes of Christ, we will understand that without Christ, they don't have hope. And so the purpose behind everything that we do as a church is to be able to bring the hope of Jesus to everyone that we encounter. And we also talked about the whole idea of that this shouldn't just be a collective goal. This should be a personal goal. Every single one of us, in order for this to be something that we do collectively as a church, bring hope to the world, we need to be bringing hope to the people that we interact with every day. And the everyday things that we do at the bank, if you're buying a sandwich at Subway, like bring hope to these people. Find a way to be able to make their day better. You don't necessarily have to be preaching at them all the time, but just put that in the back of your mind that you will bring hope. I will bring hope every day to the people that I interact with. And you'll realize that when you make that your goal to bring hope to the people that you interact with, you'll realize that that hope will become even more true for you in your life. When you bring hope to someone, you're going to walk away with more hope. That's a fact. It happens to me every single day. When I'm feeling hopeless, I'm feeling bad, I don't know what's going on, I'm feeling discouraged, I'm like, I'm going to bring hope to someone today. And when I bring hope to that person, no matter who it is, they walk away better, I walk away better. That's what we do as a church collectively, but let's make that our goal also personally. And so hope, this is what we bring. And so as a church, we have that why. That's our why. We bring hope to people. That's our big why. But we also have a what. And we've talked about the what, which is what we do as a church, right? Love God, love people, serve the world. That's our what. And our how. How do we love God? How do we love people? How do we serve the world? Well, we love God through our Sunday service. We love people through growth groups. And we serve the world through our serve teams. And so specifically today, as you know, we're talking about growth groups. That's our second how, right, is growth groups. And so again, I'll say thank you for leading a group. And what I'm going to do now, this will probably take 25 to 30 minutes. I'm just going to go through some basic things that are very important for you to understand as you lead your group. And so I want to start off also by saying something that you may or may not know about our church. And the fact that you may not know that is because you've been coming to church for a while and you don't even notice some things. But as a church, we have a problem. And we have a problem as a church. And it's not a bad problem. It's actually a good problem. And the problem is that the way that people perceive our church is described in these words that I'm going to read. Homey, friendly, loving, warm, family, nice, but not Disney nice, like really nice. Like you guys are actually nice people in your heart. Real, many people come to our church escaping mega churches. And I'm not saying mega churches are bad, but people come to our church and they're like, man, this church just feels like home. It feels like family. And so I love that. I love that. Now, that's a catch-22 because we want to continue to grow as a church, but at the same time, we don't want to lose that homey feeling. And so growth groups solves that problem. Because in a growth group, you'll be able to do family. You'll be able to meet together. You'll be able to fill that void that sometimes isn't filled in a larger group. And so this is very, very, very important. And so we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about a few things here. I want to define for you, this may be so obvious, but maybe not, but what is a growth group? So a growth group is a group. It's a group of 8 to 12 people that meet in different locations at different times through Zoom, different age groups, different preferences, etc. But they have the goal of talking about the scriptures, talking about God, and how these relate to our lives. That's what a growth group is. It's a group of people, 8 to 12 people, who meet and talk about God, the scriptures, and how these relate to our lives. Okay? Acts 2:46 says this: every day they continued meeting together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts. And so they were, as we see in the scripture, in the early church, there was the big gathering and then there was the small gathering, right? And so we have the big gathering on Sundays, we have the small gatherings during the weeks. And so why are growth groups so essential? Like, why are growth groups important? Why would we even bother doing growth groups? Well, because Sunday is a monologue. I'm just talking and you're listening. But growth groups is a dialogue. And this is so important because when I'm preaching on Sundays, I'm preaching out into the crowd, and I don't know, there's no way for me to know the specific thing that each person is going through in their lives. But in a growth group, we solve that problem because you're able to take the Sunday message or the scripture, whatever it is that you're studying in your group, and you're able to customize it and apply it specifically to the 8 to 12 people that you know what they're going through. So that's very, very important. And so the goal of a growth group is application. Like, that's the goal, is you take the Sunday message, or you take the scripture that you're studying, or you take the book that you're going through, and the goal isn't information. The goal is application, that you will take that and you will live it out. So James chapter 1 says this, very important: do not merely listen to the word and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but does not do what it says is like someone who looks at his face in the mirror and after looking at himself goes away and immediately forgets what he looks like. But whoever looks intently into the perfect law that gives freedom and continues in it, not forgetting what they have heard but doing it, they will be blessed in what they do. We've talked about information is for what? Transformation. Information is useless if it's not going to be a transformative information in your life. I've talked about this story of, my kids. I'm telling them, hey, this is when they were little. We had a 3-story house, and the 3rd story, that was where Matthew and Justin's bedroom was. And I would walk in there, the whole thing was a mess, and I would say, hey, clean up your room. I want you to do 3 things. I want you to make your bed. I want you to put your toys away, right? And I want you to just, take all the trash off of the floor. And so I would go and I would come back and everything was the same. Wouldn't it be weird if my kids would say, hey, we didn't do anything that you told us to do, but we memorized everything that you said, right? That wouldn't make any sense. However, in the church, sometimes we think that memorization or learning information is an end in itself. It's not. The goal is transformation. I come up to my kids and I'm like, why? Like, this makes no sense. The goal of why I gave you the instruction that I gave you by cleaning your room and making your bed is so that you would do it, not so you would know what I said. And so that's the goal of these groups, is for us to take the information and apply it to our lives. And so I've done groups for a while now, and it's important to explain a few things, not just what growth groups are, but also to explain what growth groups are not. And so I'm going to say a few things of what growth groups are not. So number one, growth groups are not a gossip group. That's not a group that you come in and talk about other things, or you talk about, this person and how they were dressed or what they did, or they're like, no, it's not a gossip group. And as a leader, you need to understand that gossip is literally the cancer of a church. Our role as leaders is to stop gossip, even gossip that is in a seed form. Have you noticed that? It's in a seed form. Like, you can tell there's a little gossipy thing happening. Our job is to shut that down, is to shut it down. Why? Because growth groups are meant to be a safe space to where anyone can come in and share what's going on in their lives. So, growth group, it's not a gossip group. Number two, it is not a one-man show. What does that mean? You don't want to be the one doing all the talking. The goal of the group is interaction. Like your goal is to talk as least possible. Like, you want to be able to ask the question, plant the seed, and guide a discussion. We're not preaching. We're not giving a monologue. They have that Sunday. I'm giving the monologue on Sunday. This is a dialogue. It has to be a dialogue. Make it your goal to do the 30-70 rule is what I call it, which means that you should speak about 30% of the time, because participation is the goal. This is not a Bible study per se. So when you discover something, like here's the thing. When I'm in a growth group and I'm listening and I discover something on my own, that's going to make it more memorable for me. I don't want to just listen to what is being told to me. I want to be able to think and process the question that's being asked so that I can come up with the answer, because when I come up with the answer or I watch someone else coming up with an answer, that makes it more memorable for me. Okay? Number 3, growth group is not a place to complain about the church. Here's the thing. As a pastor, I receive a lot of positive feedback, but also I receive a lot of complaints. And that is just the natural thing. It's part of ministry, and that's going to be something that will happen in your group as well. It's very dangerous when groups turn into a group where we're talking about the church and we're complaining about what we don't like, and we're saying, why can't things be different? Like, I understand we can have moments where we have dialogue about this, but this is not what the group is about. We represent the church. We are to bulletproof the church. Like, we need to protect the church. We don't want to allow for seeds of division to happen in the church. John chapter 17 is Jesus praying for unity. He prays for unity. He says, I pray that they will be one, just as you and I are one. He's talking to the Father, saying, as you and I are one, that they will be one. Why? So that the world may believe. There is so much division in our church. We are privileged to have a church that is unified, but that unity can become very fragile. So we have to be proactive in protecting this unity. And so when gossip starts or when people start complaining about the church, you just divert. Say, hey, talk to Pastor Josh about this, talk to Pastor Mark about this, but let's move on, because this is not what this group is all about. Another thing that the growth groups are not. Growth groups are not a place to chase rabbit trails, right? So many times in groups, you're going to be talking about a certain topic and then someone is just going to go off into a rabbit trail. Like, you need to master this word. This is the word that you need to master. The word that you need to master is the word anyway. Anyway, so you need to listen to what the person has to say, because there's always going to be someone in your group, and sometimes more than one person, that is going to want to go off topic and want to take the group in a different direction. So you have to master the art of the word anyway. So you can respectfully say, that's, interesting. Wow, I'd never heard that before, this and that. However, or anyway, and then you continue, because it is very easy that you're trying to be respectful. You're trying to respect the person, but at the same time, you need to understand that the goal is for the group to be able to go in the direction that the Bible study or the growth group is going toward. And so it's very important to stop the rabbit trails, all right? Next thing is that a growth group is not a social club. A growth group is not a social club. Groups are open. All the groups that are in the catalog, I think we have 12 groups this season, they are open groups. So it's not a social club. It's not a closed group. Hey, this is just us. No one else can come into this group. We've been together for such a long time. No. These are open groups. We are open. Just like what we do in church. Every Sunday, when new people come to our church, I ask them to raise their hand. We make a big deal out of it. We're so happy that you're here. That needs to be the same thing for your group. When someone comes into your group, you're not just accepting that they're there. You're so happy that they've decided to spend that evening or whatever time that you're meeting with them. Make a big deal out of it. Do a round of applause. Pray over them. Just make them feel as welcome as possible. These groups are not social clubs, okay? So now we're going to talk about seasons. We're going to talk about seasons. I want to explain to you the reason for the seasons. Why do we have seasons? So we have 2 big seasons of growth groups every year, and we take breaks we take a break in the summer, and we take a break during Christmas break. We have 2 big breaks, and I want to explain the reason for these seasons. So reason number 1 for having seasons as opposed to just having ongoing groups throughout the year for eternity is for growth. Like this is important. The reason why we have seasons is so that the groups can grow. A forbidden word that we've talked about before is the word division. Nobody likes the word division. That's why we in a way start from scratch every season, which means that you're together for a season, you take a break, and then you start up again, which reopens people to be able to move around from group to group without giving the sensation that we're dividing the groups, because nobody wants to be part of a group that's been divided. It always causes tension. So we have this little buffer in between to where people can move around and decide what groups they want to be a part of. The second reason for seasons is leader breaks. Leader breaks so that the leaders can take breaks. Leaders need breaks. Now, some people say, if the enemy doesn't rest, then I'm not going to rest either. No, that's not true. We have to take breaks because it's so easy to get burned out. If you're doing something for a long time, you just lose the joy, and it's important to take breaks. And so that's another reason for the seasons and what we're asking for leaders to do in general. Now, the pandemic threw everything out the window. But what we're asking for leaders to do in general is to have 2 seasons where you're on and then 1 season off. In other words, you could take, this season and then the next season, but then the season after that, you want to take a break. That's our suggestion. It's not a mandatory thing, but it's a suggestion that you will take 1 season off every 2 seasons. And so even God took, He took the 7th day and He rested. So that needs to be true for us as well. The next reason is promotion. Promotion. You see, when we have off seasons, so we have a season and then we take a little break, that gives us a little buffer in between to be able to promote the season that's coming up, to be able to give out the growth group catalog so people can sign up. It just gives us a little time in between for us to be able to shuffle the deck a little bit and give people an opportunity to be able to promote, because we don't want to promote the whole year. That just, it becomes white noise. We want to have a season of promotion. We have like 3 to 4 weeks where we promote the groups and people sign up. So the next reason for a season is commitment. This is the last reason that I'll give you for the reason why we do seasons is commitment. It's easier when you're inviting someone into a group. It's much easier if you want to invite someone into a group that you invite them to a group and you say, we're going to be doing this for 12 weeks. It's much easier for a person to commit to something for 12 weeks than it is for an ongoing eternal commitment. You say, hey, I can do this for 12 weeks. I can do this for 15 weeks. And so that's another reason for the season, okay? So quickly, I'm gonna go now to the roles. Like, what are the roles within a growth group? We have 3 roles in a growth group. Is the leader, the coordinator, and the host, okay? Leader, coordinator, and the host. The leader is the person that leads the group. For example, I'll use an example. Marcos Lebrin, he has his group. He's the leader of that group. Coordinator is the person that is sort of like the co-leader, and the goal is that coordinator will then, in a couple of seasons, when that leader takes that season off, that coordinator will become the leader, and that's how we'll multiply the groups. And the host is the person that opens up his house. The host just opens up his house, and I'm going to explain what these different roles are, what these different roles entails. And so I'll go real quickly. Number 1, the leader. What is the role of the leader? The leader has 6 responsibilities. And so you can take notes of these. They have 6 responsibilities. Number 1, pray. I want you to pray. Leaders, pray. Pray for your group. Pray for each person in your group individually once a day. Okay? Very important that you do this every day. Have a list of all the people in your group and just pray over their lives. Each person do this every day. So number 2 is lead. Like, this may seem obvious, but it's lead your group. Lead your group. And so what I want, this can be very scary, especially if you're a first-time leader, like you've never led a group before. But here's the thing. One of the biggest concerns that people have is that you're going to be asked a question in the group and you're not going to know the answer. So here's what I want to tell you. I want to give you permission to say, I don't know. Because here's the thing. You don't have all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. I don't have all the answers. Pastor Mark doesn't have all the, nobody has all the answers. And so I want to give you permission when you're asked a question and you don't know the answer to say, I don't know. But I'm going to find out. And next week, I'll come to you with the answer. You can come to me, you can come to Pastor Mark, you can come to anyone that's leading in our church. You can research it yourself and come back with the answer. So I want to give you permission to say I don't know, because actually nobody expects you to have all the answers, and there's nothing that's more annoying than making up something on the fly, because people can tell also that you don't know what you're talking about. So I just want to give you permission to say I don't know. Okay, so like I said before, we have groups that are sermon based, and other groups that are going to be doing books of the Bible, and others that are going to be studying a textbook that is Bible based. But this next section is for the groups that are doing the study guide. Now, I'm going to go through the study guide real quick, just a quick review on how to do a study guide. Study guides are pretty self-explanatory. There's an introduction, there's like 10 questions, there's little notes along the way, and then there's a conclusion. I'm also doing a small video. There's a small intro video, about a 2-minute video, where I just give a short recap of what the sermon was. And so you watch that video with your group, you go through the questions, you talk about the topic, and then you're good to go. So that's basically what it is. So that's number 2. Number 3 is learn. Learn. Now, very specifically, what do I mean by learn is that you will participate in these leadership trainings twice per season. So this happens twice per season. So it's 4 times in the year. It's a short 35 to 45 minute recap, just remembering why we do what we do. Planning on doing the next one in person. We had a little issue with people not feeling comfortable yet attending in person. Schedules were an issue. That's why I'm making this video. But learn, what I mean by is you participating in the leadership trainings that we will have 4 times per year. Okay? That's number 3. Number 4 is fill. Now, 2 times per year, which means every time that there is a growth group season, your responsibility, I want to make this very clear, that the responsibility to fill the group is the leader's responsibilities. Now, as a church, we're going to provide promotion, we're going to provide the study guides, we're going to provide a video that we're making to promote this season. We're going to provide the growth group catalogs, which is going to have all the information there for people to join. We're going to provide the online sign up. All these things we're going to provide, but I just want to make it very clear. It's important for you to understand that the responsibility of filling the group is yours. And so what I'm going to do also is I'm going to send each leader a list of people that aren't participating in any group, so that you can call them on the phone, text them, or send them an email to be able to invite them to your group. And then number five, finally, the responsibility of a leader is to raise a new leader once per year. So every 2 seasons, the goal is that your coordinator or someone in your group will become the leader of the next group, and then you as a leader, after you take the season off, you'll start off with a new growth group yourself. And so you have to raise that person. What do I mean by raise? I'm all about doing. That you will allow for them to do things in your group. If you see someone in your group that has leadership potential, give them the opportunity. You've seen me do this on Sundays. I give people opportunities to preach. Sometimes they're scared to do it, but I truly believe it's like the mother bird who just throws her bird off of the cliff, and the bird has to figure it out as she goes along. I'm kind of that way, in the sense that you should allow for people to be able to grow in areas that maybe scare them a little, but you see that they have leadership potential. Go ahead and allow them to lead the group. Allow for them to lead half the group. Allow for them to do a prayer at the beginning, to do the recap. Give them the opportunity to be able to do this. That way you can allow for them to be able to grow. And once they're ready, this is I want to ask you to do this for a whole year. Allow them these opportunities. And then after, when you take your season off, then they can go off and lead a group. All right? Matthew 9:37 says, "Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few." So you have to think leadership multiplication. Always think about that. Think about, how can I multiply leaders in my group? Not just how can I lead this group. Identify leaders. That guy could lead. I bet they could lead. I bet that couple, in a couple of months would be able to lead a group. Just start thinking that way. And then finally, I said 5th was the final one, but it's actually 6 things. Call. What do I mean by call? Call them. your group. If they missed a group, call them on the phone, text them, send them an email. Do these things. It's very important for people when they miss a group to be able to feel that somebody cared that they missed. Follow up on them. Send them some notes. Ask them how they're doing. This is very important for the people to be able to continue participating, etc. All right? Sound good? So now I'm going to talk about the job of the coordinator. So we talked about the job of the leader. Now I'm going to talk about the job of the coordinator. And so I'm going to go through these very quickly. Each leader should have a coordinator, and the coordinator will, number one, pray daily. Like pray for your entire group. Every person in the group, the coordinator, pray for them every day. First thing in the morning, in your prayer time, in your quiet time, write this on a piece of paper, on a board, something, but you'll go through these people and pray for them every day. That's number one. Number two, write down prayer requests and email them to the group. In other words, when you have your time at the beginning, when you pray in the group and you ask for prayer requests, your responsibility as a coordinator is to write down these prayer requests and then pray for them every day, and also email these prayer requests to your entire group. That way your whole group is praying for each other. Number three, email the group before the meeting. In other words, if you're meeting on a Wednesday, email them on Tuesday, hey, we're meeting this, or text them on Tuesday, or call them on the phone on Tuesday, say, hey, remember, we're meeting tomorrow, I hope to see you there, etc., etc. Number four, open and close in prayer often. This is kind of what I was saying before to the leaders, that you will open and close in prayer often, that this will be something that you do often so that you're starting to get accustomed to what it means to lead a group. And then number five, lead the group a couple of times per season. I want to challenge the leaders to allow for their coordinators to lead the entire group. Have them open and close, do half a group, and then you do the other half throughout the year. But then a couple of times in the season, at least 2 times, allow for them to lead the entire group. All right? So that's the role of the coordinator. Now I'm going to talk about the role of the host, and I'm going to close with this. The host, 3 responsibilities. Number 1, pray. Just like we said before, pray for everyone in your group every single day. Number 2, open your house, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're opening up your house weekly. And then number 3, set up a snack schedule. In other words, you don't have to provide all the snacks for everybody, but you'll set up a snack schedule. In other words, hey, it's your turn this week to bring the snacks, and then kind of work it out that way, okay? So, as we come to a close, I just want to talk very quickly about the system. How does the system of growth groups work in our church? So as I said before, as we look at the calendar, we have 2 big growth group seasons, and they're divided by a break during Christmas and then another break during the summer. I already talked about why this is important, but I want to explain to you something very important about the system, and it is how to fill your group. You see, we want the groups to be full. We don't want groups that have 3 to 4 people, even though that's fine, but it's not ideal. And we also don't want groups to have 30 people, because that's not a good thing either, because it defeats the role of a growth group. We want to have groups that are between 8 to 12 people. It can be a little bit over, it can be a little bit less, but the reason for this is because when you have less than 8 people in your group, it becomes a little bit stagnant, it becomes a little bit quiet, it becomes a little bit low energy. But then when you have groups that are over 12 people, or over 15 people, 14 to 15 people, there are people in your group that you'll notice that never have the opportunity to be able to interact. And so sort of the sweet spot is between 8 to 12 people. You want to have that group, that amount of people in your group as a goal. And so as a church, I already said we provide support, the stage, the catalogs, the study guide, the video on social media, a list of people that you can call and text to be able to fill your groups. And so that's kind of it. I mean, we talked about the what, the why, the how. We talked about the system. We talked about the roles. And again, I just want to encourage you. I want to encourage you just with your pastoral role. And I'm just going to close with this. Your pastoral role. So our church isn't small. And it's impossible for us as staff, as pastoral staff, to be able to take care of all of the flock. And so what comes to mind is the verse in Exodus where Moses was leading the Israelites. And Moses was, from the morning until the evening, he was dealing with people. He had this long line of people, and people kept coming. And then his father-in-law, Jethro, comes up to him and says, this is crazy. What are you doing? Like, what are you even thinking? And then he explains to him, and he says, you're doing everything wrong. You need to divide these people up into groups of, I think he said, 100, and then 50, and then just smaller groups, and you need to delegate these responsibilities. This is what I am asking, this is what I'm called to do as a pastor, is to be able to equip you to be able to do the work of the ministry. And so you guys are, in a way, pastors. You guys are shepherds of this church. The groups that you have, God has entrusted to you to be able to shepherd them. And so I want to encourage you in this, that you have a big responsibility. This is a big deal, but don't be overwhelmed by it, because God is going to give you the ability to do it. And you're going to see people's lives transformed. You're going to see God answering prayers. You're going to see these lives being touched by the Holy Spirit as a result of your work. And so I want to encourage you. I don't want you to be overwhelmed. I just want to tell you how happy I am that you've accepted this responsibility. I am here for you. Call me, text me, anything that you need. I'm super excited. Just a quick reminder, our season starts September 5th. The growth group season, the second growth group season of 2021 starts on September 5th. That's a Sunday. So that's the week when we are launching our groups. I'm super excited. Thank you for taking this challenge. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.